Okay, so this is fixed on the exhaust on the Ford here, the free Ford 500. Oh, so this is not what I had planned on doing. What I wanted to do, what I started to do, is I was not able to get those studs out of there, even though they should just be passing through this piece, because this would be, I believe, the where it was actually, the stud was actually threaded into, because you could see that there was a stud here with a nut on it, even though it was very hard to make out what it was because it was so rusty. So I ground that off with the cutoff wheel on the Dremel. I did that on both sides. However, I was not able to get my angle drill to fit in here, because it's really just, you know, with all these pipes here and stuff, it's just not enough room. So after looking at a bunch of things, the only option I really found that was going to work was to use these stupid two-piece clamps. I really hate using this Mickey Mouse kind of stuff. I mean, look at this. These things are not very stiff. You can see this one's bent up at the top. Look, I couldn't even find bolts that were the same length. The bolts that come with it never are the size that you need them to be. Anyway, I don't know how long this will hold up. I hate having to pay money to do things the half-ass way, when if I had the right tool, I could have drilled out these holes and drilled out the old studs and just bolted it, and it would have been good for the rest of the life of the car, I'm sure. So I don't know if this is gonna come loose or what. Possibly spacers in between there might have been a good idea, but if, as you can see here, where am I with this? As you can see here, that bolt is right up against the flange. There's no way I could have fit anything in here, you know, like a spacers or something like that. It's a pretty tight fit. Anyway, this isn't pretty, and I got a feeling it'll come loose or snap or something, but let's see if this car is quiet now. Ugh. Okay. Let's see how this goes. Got $11 invested into this dumb clamps. Hey, look at that. That sounds nice and quiet. Okay, well, there's that. So this is at least quieted down now. Doesn't sound like it has any exhaust leaks at all. So, which I'm not surprised, because I did clamp those two flanges together with two tiny C clamps, which honestly, probably not that much worse off of what I just did. So, I figure I'd open the hood here. I've also fixed the motor mount. Well, they don't call it a motor mount. The torque strut mount. This here is a roll resistor. I think it was called, yeah, roll resistor. And this bushing here, I had to cut the old one out. This is actually the old one here. I just stuck a hacksaw blade straight through it and cut it in almost the whole way in half, and then I didn't want to damage the aluminum that the bushing goes in, so I just pried it the rest of the way out. As you can see, it was pretty shot. New bushing cost me about $5. That was from Rock Auto. So this thing is all nice and rubbery and, you know, not torn, and flexes like it should, and It was a pain in the neck to put in, just because I don't have whatever proper tool you would use, and this was pressed in with a block of wood. Actually, let me show you what I used here. See, I just used a hole saw on the bottom of this block of wood so that it wouldn't contact the metal. It's actually like a big aluminum block with a hole through it that this sort of bolts up against, and this piece sandwiches that aluminum block when you tighten the bolt down. So I had to clear it, so I used this block of wood, and I had another block of wood like it on the other side, and a really big C-clamp, and I was eventually able to drive it all the way in. The only problem is the edge of this thing protrudes past the mount by almost 1/8 of an inch. So that last 1/8 of an inch took a half hour in itself, because there's not a lot of room here. You know, if I'd had like a piece of pipe or a big giant hub socket or something that might have fit over this, you know, that would have worked. So now, if I hadn't mangled this thing so badly trying to get it out, if I'd have been able to make just one clean cut on that, and if I'd have been thinking ahead and realizing that this thing protrudes past the mount, I could have saved this, cut this rubber away, and actually put this over the outside of here so that this face here was touching this here, and then I could have, you know, had a block of wood on this side and the C-clamp like I was doing, and this thing would have been able to just push inside of this. You know, it'd be the same thing if I had, like I was just saying, like a big pipe or something like that. But the way I ended up doing it was I had a hole saw. You know, one of those old style hole saws that the blade is like a band that clamps into a plate that goes into your drill truck. So I actually put one of those around the outside of here with the block of wood on the other side of that, and that worked, although it was kind of slow going, not ideal. And it took me a while to realize that I had something like that hole saw blade that I could use. I was trying it with small blocks of wood that were like made out of pine, so it could kind of compress, but that was stupid and didn't work at all. So I just had to rummage around my shed until a light bulb went off, and I said, oh yeah, I can use that. So anyway, now I know for future things, you know, sometimes an old part saved can be a useful tool. Old wheel bearing races are like that. I know that. I've used them for a lot of things. Anyway, the car is also, after 4 trips to the DMV, is also registered and titled. That was a pain in the neck. So the state of New Jersey does not like it when you put wrong information on a line, or rather, you put your information on the wrong line of your title, as my neighbor had done. Accidentally put his name in the lien holder line, which is just above the seller name line. So that was a real pain. Also, the DMV shortened their hours, and I didn't know that, and I had a couple trips to the DMV that wound up being right before they closed rather than several hours before they closed. That was a lot of fun. So 4 trips to the DMV for me, 1 trip for him, and to get that title corrected, and the thing is finally $131 later, and the thing is finally registered. And of course the car was given to me, so I didn't pay any sales tax on it. Normally you pay sales tax. That's the only thing I thought the DMV was going to give me a hard time about. Turns out it's the only thing they didn't give a crap about. Anyway, now this car is ready for a test drive, and I'll be doing that this evening, driving it about 10 miles to my mom's house, and we'll see what other problems we find with this car. So stay tuned. The free Ford 500 shall continue.